Ariel, and I'm here with Skully Designs for our 365-day project. Today, we're going to make these adorable hanging kitchen towels. They button to attach to your stove so they can hang to make it easier for you to grab, wipe your hands, or use whenever you need while you're in your kitchen. For this project, we'll need a few supplies. Today, I picked up a bunch of coordinating pot holders and adorable tea towels for the kitchen. These I got at TJ Maxx. All different designs, coordinating. Some matching buttons of sizes you want to make sure that they will fit through your pot holder loop, and you want to make sure you have the pot holders with loops to button up. Some needles and thread to sew your buttons on. Pins to pin your project together while you're working on it. Basic household scissors to trim those little threads. Some marking chalk so that you can mark where you're sewing. And of course, a sewing machine so that you can get those few basic stitches that are needed. A button just fell down my lap. Okay, oops. So let's get started. I'm going to start with this kitchen towel that I actually got at the dollar store. Kind of like it. It's basic, simple. So what I'm going to do first is fold the towel in half. So here would be your towel. I'm just going to fold it over in half. Get a nice seam. Since sometimes it's hard to tell, I'm going to mark that with my chalk so that I don't lose where it's at. And I'm just going to go across. I like to use the chalk, as you may know by now, because it'll easily wipe away and you won't see it, unlike a marker or anything else. Also, when I pick up my towels, I like the towels with a nice tight weave. If you get something with too large of a weave, it'll crumple up and be harder to gather. And you'll see what I'm talking about when we gather it, so it'll fit the size of your pot holder. Alright, now that we have our center line marked with chalk, as you can tell, make sure we're on our center line. We're going to move on over to our sewing machine and do a couple basic stitches, and we're almost done. Okay, we have our towel here, we have our mark. We're going to put our setting on the longest straight stitch that your machine shows. So every machine's different. I'm not going to try to figure yours out. So you want to go to the longest straight stitch. And you are going to find that center mark that you made, and you're just going to sew straight across it. You are not going to back stitch because you're going to need those extra stitches on both sides. Once you sew across, you're going to pull those threads on both ends, since you didn't back stitch, to gather your towel together. So you want to make sure you have threads hanging before you start, enough to be able to pull. And also when you finish off, you don't want to cut your threads real tight. You want to make sure there's some long, because you're then going to pull them to gather your towel together. So we're just going to go along here. And I am horrible at sewing a straight line, so I'm kind of trying to take my sweet time, since I can't really use my line adjuster on this project. There we go. Open it up and pull just a bit there, and I'm going to cut it farther, except I didn't bring my scissors over here, so I'm going to go reach across. Ooh, because I don't want to do this again. Reach across, sorry. Grab my scissors, give it some space, and cut it. Now, of those threads on each side, you're going to separate them and you're going to pull, usually it's the bottom thread, on each side very gently. If I can get my threads apart. You're going to pull the bottom thread on each side and it's going to gather your towel together. Of course, I would have to be able to separate my threads. Eek! Mine are all, okay, there they are, separated. So, there's one thread. Oh, it's my bottom one. So I'm just going to very gently pull because I don't want the thread to break either. If you see, as I'm pulling, my towel is gathering. I just want to go very slowly and keep it going so that I can start gathering it together. And I want to make it gathered on both sides. I'm going to do the same on the other side. And I'm going to keep gathering it until it's about the same width as my pot holder. So we're just going to find where that thread went again. Keep gathering it along. You want to be very careful not to break your thread because it's a real pain to try to gather with just one side. So I got that side a little bit. Let me see if I can find those loose threads on this side. Gather some on this side. There's one. Where's my other one on the other side? There's my bottom one. So I'm gonna pull and gather on this side as well and have it meet in the middle. So it's really easy once you find that bottom thread. If you have the thread that doesn't really gather or pull, you probably have the top thread. It's much easier with the bottom thread. And see how it's starting to gather on both sides? So you want to keep doing that until you have the entire towel gathered, like I said, the same size as your pot holder. And just keep on going at it. You can see it's pretty easy. I have a pretty strong thread though. Let's see how much more we need to do. Probably about 1.5 inches more here. Try to do some more from the other side. I kind of go back and forth so that it's not just all being gathered on the one thread. The wrong thread here. I do. See, I have the top thread on this side, and that top thread doesn't really gather as well. So you want to find your bottom thread to gather it. And my threads are like all over the place. All over. Oops. And I accidentally did break my thread. So you do want to be really careful about that, not to break your thread. It's not going to change the project any. It's just going to make the rest of your gathering a little bit more difficult. So leave it to me to break the thread while I'm doing the tutorial. And as you can see, I'm kind of a train wreck today because I've been going for about 16 hours working today. And want to make sure I get a project up every day, so I wanted to get this done. Okay, I'm almost there. I'd say just about another 1/2 inch gathered and I'll be good to go. Let's get this centered over more. Find that other thread. So we just have the top one there, so. Okay, it looks about good. It's about the width. Right, what we're going to do now that that's gathered is we're going to open it up so you got like, almost like a butterfly or wings, angel wings. we are going to have, you have the top side of your towel here, and you're going to have your pot holder bottom side up though. So that's, okay, so here's your gather mark. Your pot holder, so you want your like wings long width down. Your pot holder would also go long width. But you want your towel right side up. You want your pot holder wrong side up. So you see the tag on the pot holder, but you see the good side of your towel. Because what we're going to do then is center this pot holder. We're going to fold it so we know our center point. We're going to center it right over, directly over where you just gathered. And we're going to pin it there and then sew it across. So you can see kind of when we're done sewing it, it'll be folded like this and sewn, and then we'll just sew our button over and it'll be done. Let's get some pins and get this pinned up. We'll sew that, and like I said, almost done. Voila! 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 I have my pot holder all pinned to my towel now, and you can see if it were sewn when I hold it up, how it would kind of be. It's directly going to be sewn right over that gather. I made sure also, pot holder wrong side up, towel right side up, but I made sure that the back of my towel would also be in the back in case I don't decide to cut it out where the loop is. So it's on the back of the towel once it's all completed. Of course, normally I would tear that out anyway. So I'm going to take this to the sewing machine now, and I'm going to switch my settings back to normal, regular, straight stitch, so it'll be nice and tight. And when I sew the pot holder onto the towel, this time I am going to back stitch when I start to hold it, and back stitch when I end to hold it, so those stitches are nice and secure. Now, it may be a little bit more difficult if you don't have the right foot on your sewing machine, since the pot holder's batted and you have some extras. So really, you probably want like a quilting pedal would be better. I don't have one, so I'm just going to deal with it, as I always do. And so anyway, so I got it set up, just one stitch all the way across, back stitching on both sides, try to be straight as possible, going right over my gather. Pulling my pins out as I go, going a little bit slower since it's so straight. Trying to make sure that it's still centered over my gather. And got away on me. Let's bring it back and do my back stitch. Now you're not going to see those stitches because once you put your button and sew your pot holder over, you're not going to see these stitches. They're going to be completely hidden. And see how cute? I have both sides. And then just trim my threads, which I haven't trimmed yet. And now I'm just going to sew a coordinating button right there in the center, and it'll be all done. I'm going to sew my button on hand, and I'll be back to show you the finished product. So I've got my button all sewn up, and look at how adorable. Simply unbutton it, attach it to your stove rail. It's a great and inexpensive way to decorate and spice up your kitchen, and they make adorable gifts. Thanks for staying tuned for today's 365-day project. We hope you'll join me and Skully Designs tomorrow for our next project. Have a good night.